Shawn could have protected him, didn't. And then when Shawn started to spiral through personal demons, Paul was there for him, which,
Hey guys, we're gonna soon talk about Kevin Nash. He goes on his podcast speaking about how Shawn Michaels could have prevented Triple H from getting in big trouble at the curtain call that happened in 1996. We're gonna talk more about it at Toss Ring Scandal, aka KDH.
Tired of being humble. I'm tired of letting people think they got a chance. The tribal chief is head and shoulders above everybody.
Hey guys, we're here at the locker room, Toss Ring Scandal, aka KDH here. We'll talk about Kevin Nash calls out Shawn Michaels for not helping Triple H. We're talking about Kevin Nash on why HBK could have helped Triple H. Get the like since we come to the locker room. We about to air some dirty laundry on this one. Now, for those you don't know, which will be explained in interviews as well that I will reveal. Now, back in 1996 at the Madison Square Garden Arena, this was a live event show. They used to call it house shows back in the day. Well, it was a match where Diesel, Kevin Nash, Razor Ramon, known as Scott Hall, they were leaving WWE to go to rival company, then known as World Championship Wrestling, also known as WCW. However, it was in a match where all characters were babyfaces and heels. Since the men were leaving the company, real-life friends of Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, known as the Kliq, a backstage guys who were known for politicking, for storylines and pushes, whatever. They were caught hugging. They hugged up in the Madison Square Garden Arena inside the ring, breaking, also known as kayfabe, which is breaking character. That was a huge no-no back in the wrestling business, especially in the 90s, because this happened in 1996 when the men were leaving. However, Shawn Michaels was then WWE champion. He was doing his thing. He was the guy that Vince looked to as a part of the new generation era, because we was also out of the golden age in the new generation era. Also, we had Triple H, who was an up-and-coming guy. He was known as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And then, of course, since Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were leaving the company, since that was a huge no-no, they punished Triple H for it. Long story short, he had to eat it for a while, take some L's. He was supposed to win King of the Ring back in 1996. That ended up going to the Rainmaster, also known as Stone Cold Steve Austin. A year later, Triple H won King of the Ring in 1997. But Kevin Nash said on his podcast, Kliq This, he said how Triple H took the heat for everything because he was the only one that could be viably punished for it. But he's saying how Shawn Michaels could have prevented that. He's going to speak on that on his podcast. Then we also have later on Triple H talking about the curtain call on a podcast recently. And then we have Jim Cornette speaking too about it. Let's check out, see what Kevin Nash had to say on his podcast here about it.
He was part of it.
Yeah.
He took the bullet.
Yeah.
He took the bullet
No,
for
yeah,
the
he
curtain
did
call
take
is what
the-
he did.
Yeah, he took the bullet.
So you've got to give him props.
He took the bullet. Shawn could have protected him, didn't. And then when Shawn started to spiral through personal demons, Paul was there for him, which,
Was there any animosity on Paul's end
I know there was. Yeah,
for
I
not
think there was.
going to bat?
Yeah, I think there was on all of our ends. Because if anybody was untouchable, it was Shawn. Shawn was the champ. And Shawn was, they were definitely, we're going with him.
But the tenets of the Kliq at the time were all for one for all. This is my brother. If you do something to him, you're doing it to me. That was over when you and Scott left?
No, because it was divide and conquer. I just think that, see, I wasn't involved in the screw job, so I don't know how that whole, like psychology played out either.
You're talking about Montreal?
Yeah.
Well, he was already.
I swear to God, I have nothing to do with it.
I had no idea.
No idea.
Another thing for me, I don't know how many people know about this.
Superstars in the history of wrestling is created. Tell us how we get there.
So at that point in time, I'm starting to get some momentum going in my career, and there's a plan in place that I am going to win a very, especially at the time, was a very prestigious tournament called the King of the Ring.
Yeah.
I would be crowned King of the Ring, which would then launch me into a program or an angle with Shawn Michaels, who was champion, or I think at the time when they brought it up, he was either champion at that time or was going to be champion by that time. And I was going to sort of escalate myself up into that higher level of being a heel, a bad guy. And Shawn was a babyface champion. So we were going to go into this program into that year. So it would have been a huge, what we would call push for me in the business.
Like,
right? Yeah. It just would have really been the thing that launched me.
Also, this is years into the business. This is not early.
Yeah, it's years into the business, but early for me in WWE to a degree.
Right.
And at that same point in time, the business was going through transitional changes, right? So at that time, I'm still Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I'm the blue blood snob. There's still everybody's got to have sort of gimmicks and characters that are not necessarily just like you're a wrestler, you're a fireman or a cop or the clown or
walk up with a 2x4.
whatever it is. The gimmicks are larger than life, sort of cartoony characters. But backstage, there's a group of us that hang out together that were known as the Kliq.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Sean Waltman, Shawn Michaels, and myself.
Yeah.
And they were kind of just friends that all hung out together. Sort of Luger gave them the name the Kliq because they were always together. I sort of come in.
Now, that was Kevin Nash speaking on his podcast, Kliq This. He talked about how Shawn Michaels could have helped Triple H, but Shawn Michaels was not the Shawn Michaels that we all know today. The guy that's clean, sober of any substance or anything else, and also a man of God today. Shawn Michaels was the 90s Shawn Michaels, where Shawn Michaels was very hard to deal with backstage, all over the place. And Triple H, honestly, shouldn't have took the heat for that, because if we think about it, Triple H compared to Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, known as Diesel, and Scott Hall, known as Razor Ramon, he was the newest guy on the wrestling scene. He's pretty much the rookie. So he had no reason to take it, but because Triple H was a soldier, he was willing to take one for the team. He was later rewarded winning King of the Ring in 1997, and of course getting his push in 1999, becoming WWE champion, and of course continuing on his career, which he just got inducted for, being in the Hall of Fame as of 2025. All right, we soon going to hear from the late, great Scott Hall, who's a part of the Curtain Call incident. He's going to speak on Title Match Wrestling. I originally had Jim Cornette going to speak, but, they wouldn't allow me to play his content for some reason. But we'll go on to see what Scott Hall had to say, the bad guy, RIP to him. And he speaks about his last match in WWE, how he moved on WCW, and how he has last match at the Garden. Let's check it out here.
Took my stuff off. He jumped me from behind, knocked me to the floor, choked me with stuff in the aisleway. And people were thinking, and people in the aisleways who, the fans in the Garden are half smart. Like when I started to walk out, half of them were going, please don't go. Please don't go. And I'm laying in the aisleway and he's choking me with a cord and stuff. And people are going, look how they treat you, Razor, after everything you've done, man. Look how they treat you. Go to Atlanta, take the money, man. We don't blame you. Fans in the aisle, because in the Garden, the same people sit in the same seats every time and stuff. It's a really hip, sophisticated audience. So the thing is, so Patterson tells me then, because a lot of people are going, well, see, Razor, man, he ain't doing no job in the Garden. No way, because people don't do that. Not when you're going for millions of dollars to the rival company. Why would you do a job? That's unheard of. No one does that. So, but I want to do business because I want to work for Vince again someday, and I wanted the people in the Garden to get their money's worth. So, what we did was Pat said, "You lay there," and so then I'm laying there and I'm just dead in the aisleway, Triple H gets on the phone. He's still doing the rich guy thing and the bin,
Right.
And he goes, "Oh, Razor Ramon, go off wherever it is you're going. We don't need you here anyway." And all of a sudden they start going, "Razor, Razor." And I get up and pull that shit off and hit the ring and start bouncing him around like a job guy. I mean, he's feeding me, bam, 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 bam. I hit him with the sack of shit. I give him the career ender. That's it. And people are going, "He's not leaving. He's not leaving." This was Pat's finish. I pick him up like this for my finish. Baby Earl, the referee, walks around behind. I pick him up like this. Triple H's feet hit Baby Earl in the head. He goes down. I hit him with my finish. And Vince's rings are big enough that Baby Earl goes to this corner, and I drop Triple H in the far corner where I can cover him. And it's like, come on. I turn around, walk over, get up, Earl, kick him in the ass, turn back around, boom, pedigree, 1, 2, 3. And it was one. And I did the job, and it was one of the best matches of my career.
Wow.
And so I lay there forever till it's over. Then I stand up, and look at the people, and they start going, "You sold out. You sold out. You sold out." I remember too, when I was walking to the ring and they're going, "Please don't go," I stopped midway in the aisle. And Vince always stands outside the curtain in the garden. I turned around and I went like this. I pointed at Vince and I panted him out. "You tell him, give me the money, I'll stay right here." Because I would have. If he'd have come to me and said, "Raise, I'll match their offer. I want you to stay here," I'd have stayed. And so after the match too, I did the thing. They're going, "You sold out. You sold out." I'm looking around going, "Hey." And I used to always do this. I picked up the mic and I went, "Say goodbye to the band." And everybody in the garden said it with me. It was one of the most magic moments of my career. I went, "Say," because they always were saying, "Say hello." I said, "Say goodbye to the bad guy." It was like, "Thank you." And then later, Kev put Shawn over the cage. It was Shawn's idea.
Now, that was Scott Hall talking on Title Match Wrestling. He was talking about how he was leaving leaving WWE for WCW. He really didn't want to leave the company, but his issue was it wasn't to be world champion or have a huge push. He just wanted more money. And since WCW already had more money on the table to offer Scott Hall, that's what he took. But he did say in his last match he put over Triple H in the Garden, who was, like I said, Triple H was not a main event guy at the time. And he also said that he thought it was one of his best matches of his career. They all had a good falling out, at the end. Good turnout at the end of the day of the match. Even the fans knew before pre-internet, that he was leaving. They didn't want him to go. And it was definitely a very high publicized match to this day at the Garden. Now, they all hugged out, as we know before, but Scott Hall, he said he would have stayed with WWE if Vince McMahon had matched the offer, but I don't think they was going to do that. Vince McMahon didn't believe Scott Hall was worth that kind of money, $1 million a year at the time. That was a lot of money, especially for Scott Hall. No disrespect to him. Great, one of the best Intercontinental champions ever, and definitely a top mid-card dude, but not a main event player. I never saw Scott Hall as the guy that would be the world champion of the company. But I will say this, he's a part of a lot of history. Not only is Scott Hall part of the Kliq, with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Kevin Nash, and of course X-Pac, but he's also part of NWO. Had Scott Hall not left and go to WCW, there'd be no NWO. That's one of the biggest stables ever in history to this day. But like I said, Triple H at the end of the day, he ended up getting where he needed to be. He made up for all the stuff he had to do. Before he was the Game, before he was the cerebral assassin, he paid his dues. Then and out, he did. And also, that's where he's at. But he also gained respect of a lot of his peers later on because the Kliq was not very well liked backstage back in the day. But we glad that Triple H is, he put that all behind him. Look where he's at today. But that's all I have for it. Kevin Nash calls out Shawn Michaels for not helping Triple H. You guys let me know what you think about the current callback in 1996. Was Kevin Nash right what he said about Shawn Michaels not, stand up for Triple H, or was it right for Triple H to take the whole heat on everything? Check out the content here at Toss Schedule, aka KDH. Until then, guys, you already know what it is at this point. It's OUT.